the book titled DUI Jury Trial, which is a true story of a DUI case that he defended. The accused was an Illinois truck driver arrested for driving under the influence of alcohol. This book contains facts about the case from the date of the arrest up to the jury's verdict, and this nonfiction novel also includes the transcripts from the jury trial itself. The book DUI Jury Trial is now available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com.
Fix Bandits, comrades, this is the Chief Guard of the Republic Radio Shoutout Show with your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvitt every Saturday noon to 1, WRMN, 1410 AM, the Fox River Valley Media Network. We are streaming live on WRMN1410.com. The studio number here is 847-931-1410. You could text us at 505-926-1410 or hit us up in the comments on the YouTube live channel, WRMN1410.com. And a real quick shout out, the inaugural John W. Davis Jr. Memorial Outing, Sunday, July 20th. This is up north in Lake County. It's to benefit the Lake County Honor Flight for all those veterans that they actually give them free flights out to Washington, D.C. to see all the memorials there. Not all the memorials, but many of the memorials and the museums. And it's a real great time for the veterans, and they really feel special, and it's well worth it. So you could go to LakeCountyHonorFlight.org. That's all one word, LakeCountyHonorFlight.org. You call them at 847-282-0374. So there's still time to get in on this golf outing at Foss Park Golf Course in that's up right to the west of Great Lakes Naval Base there. And what else do I got to say about that? That'll be a good time. Tickets are $100 each. You could also look them up on Eventbrite. All right, so I got that shout out there. And like everything, if you're a veterans organization, you want to talk about your organization, give a call in, 847-931-1410. So Paul, how are you doing this week?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I've been kind of excited over this. I think it's a good topic. And again, we do most of our topics are
relevant and contemporary.
That's good. Relevant. I'm not very good at words because I'm on the radio, so I'm no good at words. But they are relative and contemporary. And one of the big screaming things with our friends out there in the legacy media is that the ICE, our good friends at the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, have been having a very difficult time in some of the bigger cities and along the border. For some reason, there are people that are not happy with the policies of enforcing the laws to return people to countries where they came from so they could apply to be here legitimately. And so ICE has been targeted by doxing. And doxing is where you take a person and you publicize on the internet or anywhere else any personal information you get about them. Sometimes they even publish the names of the children and where the children go to school, which is really terrible. But this has been done. So now the ICE agents are out there wearing masks to mask their identity, to cover their identity, because they are afraid of retribution. The people that they're enforcing the laws on have little to nothing to lose, but they have a lot to lose. And so in order to enforce these laws, they have to protect themselves. Otherwise, you'd really have a hard time getting good people to do these jobs. What do you think, Paul?
Can we just take a little bit of an offshoot here?
Okay.
I have a personal experience with this. years ago, I switched from the Attorney General's office to the state's attorney's office. And there was what we used to call gypsy people.
Oh, God,
that
the
were
gypsies, yes.
involved in burglaries. Okay?
I think they prefer to be called the Romani.
Well, I'll call them gypsies because that's how I knew them as. And I transferred over and I inherited a case by a guy I think you knew. He was an excellent detective. It was he was up in Area 5, and he also taught at Lewis University, Eddie Mack. And what happened was he caught a burglar through touching a woman's cash box. Okay. And the burglar took him a while to get him. And he was going to be indicted on something else. So I went to court and I handled, well, my boss did. She handled the bond hearing and she didn't get a high enough bond. And this was on around December the 8th. And it was a couple of days past my cousin's birthday, and we went to my cousin's house. And we came home, and my phone rang. And it said they were from Nicor Gas, and they wanted that my house had a gas leak. Well, I'm not stupid, you know. So I look outside, and I go, well, I don't see anybody. So I called Nicor Gas, right? And they said, well, hey, you know, if you told your gas leak, you have to get. I said, no, I don't think you understand. I said, somebody's trying to get me out of the house, right? So anyway, I called my town police, and you know, they sent somebody out, and I got my mother and father up, and my mother. I said, the police are coming. My mother looked out the front door. She said the police were here. Well, I go out. It wasn't the police, okay? It was these gypsy Romanies. And they threw a bottle of acid at me. Okay, it didn't hit me. Now the police were coming and they chased them, and you know, we figured out who it was, and it took me 2 years to get them. Okay, but they targeted me because I went to court and said that, you know, this guy was being superseded on an indictment, and we were asking no bail. So that is a very real danger to people. And anybody who's involved in doxing should go to prison. To first of all, that's terrorism at the most basic level. It's trying to and you don't want to know something. I had to get subpoenas for my own phone records to prove that it was this group of gypsies or Romani people that did this. And you know, it's anybody who's involved in doxing, whether they're a college student or a do-gooder, anybody that does that is committing a terrorist act, and they should be in prison, and they should get a sentence comparable to about 20 years.
All right, Paul.
That is a real danger.
All right, so that doesn't happen. Right now, like doxing and swatting is, at the worst they can do in the state of Illinois, is a class 4 felony. And that's if you prove disorderly conduct, intent to transmit to the police a false, a false alarm. All right. But the doxing there comes into now where you have, it's civil liabilities now in Illinois. It's only civil. It's not criminal. And I absolutely agree with you. This is bad. It's very bad. All right. And I think there should be stronger criminal things against it. When you said do-gooders, I have to disagree with that. Anyone that does this is not a do-gooder. They are sociopath. That's a sociopath. That's not a do-gooder. They're a sociopath.
They're motivated by organizations, like whether it be unions or communist front organizations under the guise of providing freedom or something like that. But these are people that get sucked into this, that do participate in it, and they, and an example needs to be made of them.
So these,
and soon.
so one of the things that you don't see a lot out there, except maybe in the ghettos or whatever, is I'm not out there randomly firing guns because, hey, my Second Amendment, blam, 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 blam. I'm firing because, hey, I bought the ammunition, I own the guns. What the hell? I'm not aiming at everyone. I don't intend to hit anyone, but I'm not doing it. Why? Because aggravated discharge of a firearm, and I'm going to go to prison. All right? And people are going to go to prison, and those laws get enforced, right? And so people aren't out doing that, one, because they have sense, right? So if someone told them just to randomly do this and they did it, then they're a tool, all right? They're a tool. They're easily influenced. And I can make the argument that they're incompetent, that I could have them declared incompetent by the state because someone told them go out there and shoot a gun, and they said, hey, why not? And the doxing is, okay, it's maybe a hyperbole with the gun, but I wanted to get an example out there of some things you just don't do, right? You don't commit perjury, right? Because if you're caught committing perjury, there's going to be consequences for that action because they don't want that, because that destroys the trust in our court systems, in our jurisprudence, and our laws, and our courts, and what keeps a fair society safe out there. So, yes, absolutely. The thing is that it's a cowardly act. Yeah, it's a psychological operations act. You're threatening, and that is absolutely correct. It's terrorism. It's terrorism on a basic level. You don't have the guts to go to court and to say that police officer is lying, that's not what happened, and to prove it, right? You don't, because you don't have any proof. You're guilty. You have. Yeah, we got a caller in here. Let's take the caller before I really go off the deep end here.
Hi, Mike. I'm Larry Nasmith, chairman of the Coalition of Veterans Organizations.
Hi, Larry. Larry's. I think I've met you at the Cook County, the VACCC, the Veterans Assistance Commission of Cook County, and I think some of the American Legion meetings too. And possibly, you've definitely been out to the Dunkin' Donuts veterans. No, I haven't. You haven't? That's a Dunkin' Donuts now. Oh, you got to come to Dunkin' Donuts every Tuesday, 9 a.m. at the Bunker Hill Woods over off Caldwell. Okay. Yeah, no, you would meet a lot of like-minded people. And what's your organization again, Larry? Coalition of Veterans Organizations. All right, so he's got the Coalition of Veterans Organizations. It's like $10 for membership there, right? Well, $10 if you want to join as an individual. An organization like not the whole American Legion, but I'm like an American Legion post, the VFW post. They can, or any other organization can join for $50, and they'll have one person will be like their representative. Okay, so what do you guys do for, what in addition do you do for the veterans that maybe the VFW or the Legion isn't that great at? Well, we speak louder when we join together and speak with one loud voice. That's what it amounts to. The way it was founded, there were several individuals highly motivated, and they realized that we're fighting for the same thing, but we need to join together and fight together. And like some American Legion posts, you'll have good contact probably with the congressman for your particular area, but we can have contact with all the congressmen. You know, you call some congressional office and you say that, well, I'm with Coalition of Veterans Organizations, I'd like to speak with your staffer who handles veterans issues, then you got a better chance than if you just call as an individual and they say, well, thank you for your sharing your opinion with us. I'll be sure to tell the congressman you called, and click. All right, that's great. And I saw you got an excellent website. What's your website address? coalitionofvets.org. Okay. Coalitionofvets.org. Nice. Got Matt just pulled it up, so if you when you see it on the YouTube channel, you'll see your webpage there, and I'm gonna link it on Post 104's webpage, and I'll probably, when we have a meeting, I'll probably be talking to our members about possibly joining your organization as a group. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. And so, anything going recently or in the near future?
Well, we fight for various issues. One that we've been fighting for quite a while is that the VA only provides dental care for 15% of enrolled veterans. They have to be like 100% disabled, or a former POW, a couple other very restrictive things. Public doesn't realize that. They think that the VA takes care of everything. And the thing is, the VA in the long run would be saving money because poor dental care is related to many other medical problems like Alzheimer's, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, even COVID-19. And the American Institute for Dental Public Health estimates that for every dollar the VA would spend on dental care, they get $1 back on kidneys and $2 back on what they would have to spend on heart disease, not to mention alleviation of the suffering of the veterans. And something that we've learned is that, would you believe that you heard of the county care program, probably. Maybe you've seen it on TV or on the radio. Maybe you've seen their ads in Spanish on viaducts. You think that the person would think that they're just another healthcare organization like Harmony Healthcare or something like Oak Street Health. As it turns out, it's a Medicaid program, and of course you got to qualify for financial constraints, but you have to be a resident of the county. Resident means that you live here. We're a sanctuary county, which means that if you can earn your benefits by having illegally crossed into the United States. They could have dental care as part of their package, and if you're going to have a complete health program, then dental care should be a part of it. But the thing is, doesn't it seem that the people who earn their benefits through their service deserve at least as much as the people who earn their benefits by unlawfully entering the United States?
Okay, so Larry, getting back to this dental care, all right? So I'm a 100% disabled veteran, so I would qualify for dental, yes. Yeah. But when I was putting in my disability claims, one of the things is I lost 3 teeth in the Army, for deployment. I lost 3 teeth, and I go to they sent me to a contractor, an outside contractor, to have them evaluate my teeth and everything, which aren't the best, right? A lot of stress, jaw grinding and everything from deployments. And he goes, well, what's your disability? This is the dentist, right? He goes, well, what's your disability? I go, well, you're kind of, I'm not an expert in this, but sometimes it hurts to chew, and I got to sleep with this night guard in all the time. And I got to be very careful because I've had like excruciating pain with this. And he goes, well, he gives me 0. He doesn't even give me a 0%. He says no disability. All right. And then he goes and tells me, he says, well, you got to tell the VA you need dental care. And this is before I had 100%. And then they'll send you to us because we're a provider for them. And I'm thinking to this guy, I'm looking at this guy there, and I'm saying, afterwards, after I got the no disability, I says, well, how does he expect me to come back to him now that, come back to him now that the VA, that he didn't give me a dental disability? So these dentists, this guy seemed very angry because I was just in there for a consultation. It seemed like it was a waste of his time. And then he's trying to tell me that all of his other buddies are doing this. Well, all of his other buddies are probably giving the soldiers a disability, a percentage rate. Once you get a disability percentage, and like 0% is a percentage, right? Then the VA is going to grant you care. But a lot of people do not apply for dental disability. Right? They just, they don't do it. They don't even think of it. And I know my dad had, he applied the VA for disability because he lost a lot of his teeth when he smashed into a German roof as a paratrooper. But that was, in between wars. He was over there in Germany in the 50s. But, he had a disability for his teeth because he lost a couple. But that is a very good thing. And you're absolutely right. And when I was down at the Cook County Board, when they're determining how much they're going to budget for the VA CCC, I says, listen, the more VSO, veteran service officers, we get out there to help our guys apply for disability, the more veterans we take out of the county health system and put into the VA system. Right? And that saves money for the county. And I agree with you. There's nothing wrong with what you're saying. So if you're applying for disability, All right, listen to Larry here. You should also put in for the dental disability. And that would, the only trouble is that Hines, with the amount of veterans there, and you're right, it's a compounding of problems. So these guys get older, they have less dental hygiene, which leads to other problems, and now they're on a waiting list because they used to have a larger dental facility at Hines because they had they partnered with the Loyola Dental School. All right. And so these doctors working at Loyola were coming over and basically double dipping and working in Hines. So that's a great project to work on, and you're absolutely right. I hope people out there hear that, and when they hear about things like that, like dental for veterans.
Well, what needs to happen is Congress has a bill. There's a bill, H.R. 210, which would require the VA to treat dental care like every other medical specialty. So we don't say provide us with dental care. We say treat it like every other medical specialty. Why should it be treated any differently? And actually, when you think about it, not everybody needs, care for cancer or podiatry or dermatology or something, or what they call it, sex changes or anything like that. Or, excuse me, I got to be politically correct, gender affirming surgery.
Well, okay,
not everybody needs that, but everybody needs dental care.
Yes. Yeah, you're correct. I'm not arguing with you on this. Dental care is essential. It's so, and when you're in the military, they make it such a pain in the butt, right? It's you want to go get a dental appointment. So I'm in Germany, and I'm going to be over there for a year, and they give me a dental appointment for 5 months away. I'm like, okay, 5 months, and I'm on active duty, and it's a 5-month wait. You're like, what? The only way you go in there is like if you're in such excruciating pain that it's an actual medical emergency. But to get in there to have dental hygiene or something, it's a long wait. You are, and then you're competing with the children and dependents of other soldiers because they're all treated at the same hospital. All right. And you got anything else for us, Larry?
Well, you have to understand that when we contact the congressman for different things, such as that project, a lot of times they thank us because they didn't even know about some of the things that we're telling them. So that helps. So you contact a congressional office, you ask for the staffer who handles veterans. And they're the ones you need to talk to. Of course, when you talk to the local offices, they're concerned more with constituent services, while the D.C. offices are concerned more with legislation. But it's good to have the relationship with the local one because they speak to their counterpart on the D.C. level.
Yes, and they all, all these military guys, they all call and they talk to the same colonels on the congressional floor, and they could share information. They all have these problems, and the colonels, they're a good source of information because they say, hey, we're getting all these inquiries about this. I've worked at the Pentagon, and I've had 3-star generals that were clueless as what was happening on the ground floor of the military.
Exactly. And the thing is, veterans...
We got to go to break, Larry.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
Want to read some action-packed, exciting pulp fiction? Read the works of Michael Tooman, now featuring the international crime thriller, I Married a Bot Madam. Available on Amazon in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle editions. The paperback is also available at other book retailers. Check out Michael Tooman's webpage at Scilink.net. That's Papa Sierra Yankee Lima India November Kilo. November Echo Tango.
Are you dreaming of a getaway? Want to leave the stress of daily life behind? Whether it's a relaxing cruise or an adventurous land escape, planning the perfect vacation doesn't have to be a hassle. At Cruises International, they specialize in vacation destinations, land and sea, making your dreams come true. Located at 1721 Moon Lake Boulevard in Hoffman Estates, Cruises International isn't just about booking travel. They're your personal concierge, trusted travel advisor, and advocate. Your preferences are unique, and they'll take the time to understand exactly what you're looking for. From personalized service to their global network of specialists, they ensure that your vacation is tailor-made just for you. It's time to plan the vacation of a lifetime. Call 800-255-7447. That's 800-255-7447 today and speak to a cruise and vacation expert. Cruises International. It's time to set sail to your dream destination.
Now available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com is the book called DUI Jury Trial, which is the true story of a truck driver in Illinois who was charged with driving under the influence of alcohol. Not only was he facing a revocation of his driver's license, but also a lifetime disqualification of his CDL, which would prevent him from ever driving a semi-truck again. This book includes backstories of the truck driver, the lawyers that defended the case, and the DUI expert witness who analyzed the case and then testified at trial as to the proper protocol procedures of the field sobriety tests as well as the breathalyzer test. This nonfiction novel also includes the actual court transcript from the jury trial, a courtroom showdown in which the final verdict would determine the fate of the defendant's livelihood. The book DUI Jury Trial is now available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com.
Children are the greatest joy and our best hope for a better future. Friends, they are the future. But did you know that millions of kids right here in our own backyard are facing hunger every day? Without healthy food, it's harder to grow, to thrive, to feel their best.
The impact when children don't have enough to eat is tremendous because when you're hungry and your basic needs aren't being met, you cannot learn.
Every child deserves to be fed. This is a problem we know how to solve. Food is not just food. It's energy, health, confidence, hope, and even love. Yes, love.
Breakfast in the classroom contributes to kids being more focused, which leads to higher grades, and simply just their well-being.
Thank you!
Learn more about how No Kid Hungry is helping end child hunger in America at helpnokidhungry.org.
Join your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvitt on our weekly radio hour, Chief Guard of the Republic, where we talk about all things national security, defense, personal security, safety, and dealing with law enforcement situations. Call in 847-931-1410. Ask us questions. We will get you answers. Every week, Saturday, noon to 1 on 1410 AM WRMN Elgin. Streaming on WRMN1410.com. Chat with us on WRMN's YouTube live channel. What? Fixed bayonets, comrades. We are the lead in music.
It froze. Sorry about that.
It froze on us. All right, we're back with the Chief Guard of the Republic Radio shout-out show. Co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvitt. Do we still have that caller Bob online? Okay. Hello, Bob.
Hi. I've missed a great deal of your program today, unfortunately, but I did want to get in with some of my experiences with the VA.
Okay.
First of all, my military history, I was in the Naval Reserve, went on active duty during the Korean War for 2 years. I was in the submarine service. When I was at New London, Connecticut, for training, they have a simulation there in a water tower, a 100-foot tower that's filled with water, to simulate an escape from a submarine. And to do that, you're at the bottom of this tower inside of a chamber. They build up the pressure in the chamber to be the equivalent of water pressure at 200 feet. And then you go into the water and you ascend up to the top, simulating an escape from a submarine. My problem was that I was having some difficulty equalizing the chamber between my inner ear and outer ear. My eustachian tube was plugged up, and I was in a great deal of pain as they were building up the pressure. And finally, the guy who was in charge looked at me. He says, "You're having a problem?" I says, "Yeah, I got a lot of pain here." And he says, "Well, you hold your nose and with your fingers and blow." And I tried that, and that didn't do any good. Finally, he said, I told him, I says, "The pain is getting much worse." And he says, "Okay." He says, "We'll get you out of here." They put me in the decompression chamber, and that was it. I was done for that test. But I never noticed anything until after I was out of the service for maybe 5 or 6 years that I felt that I was having a little bit of a hearing problem in one ear, but it really wasn't much of a problem. But I was making calls with hospitals as part of my job, and so I was working in the area where the VA was in Chicago, and so I stopped in and thought I would have a hearing test done. So they said, "Yeah, you can come in for a hearing test. You'll be here at 8 o'clock on such and such a morning, and you'll be able to get out of here before 10 o'clock or so." I did, and finally there was about 6 people that were waiting to see the doctor, and they would go in and out of his office and go from there wherever he sent them. When my turn came, doctor had me sit across the desk from him. He says, "What's your problem?" And I gave him the history I gave you. He says, "Well, you want a hearing test?" And I said, "Yes, sir." He says, "Okay, fine." He says, "Go stand in the corner, face the corner, and cover your left ear with your hand." And I looked at him. He says, "Do as I tell you. Go in the corner, cover your left ear with your hand." I said, "Okay, fine." He says, "What's your name?" I turned around and looked at him. He says, "Damn it, it's in the corner. What's your name?" I turned around and says, "Bob Balsamo." He says, "Fine." He says, "Now cover your other ear with your other hand." And he says, "Where do you live?" I says, "South Elgin." He turned around and he says, "Nothing wrong with your hearing."
Yeah, they're very scientific of them there, very scientific, And, my dad was in field artillery, and he had a lot of hearing loss, especially at the deep end, the kaboom, kaboom, kaboom. And I've had hearing loss from being electronic warfare, listening in on the stuff, plus driving the trucks and everything else. So that's the old days. How many times did you sit behind in the booth with the phantom beep machine, where they tell you hit the button when you hear the beep?
Yeah.
And you don't realize, you don't know whether you hear the beep or whether you think you hear the beep. You're not sure, and you're like,
suggestion.
Yeah, the hearing loss.
Response.
Hearing loss is that's across the military, and
that's only part of my experience. That's the funny part.
Yeah.
I found out back then that if you go to the VA, unless you have a disability, it's going to cost you.
Well, you do. Okay, so you're entitled to a VA, but they usually do it on a sliding scale, right?
Right.
A sliding scale. Now, if you have your own private insurance, they'll charge you insurance and really won't charge you anything, or a very small co-payment, right? And also your prescriptions are a lot cheaper with the VA. But if you have a service-related disability, like let's say they proved hearing loss and you had hearing loss and you needed like hearing aids, well, those would be provided to you by the VA at no cost because you have that disability. But like Larry was saying earlier, if you go in there and you're looking for dental care, that not so much because you don't have a service-related disability with that.
Right. So anyway, I want to update you now.
Okay.
Many years later, it's getting pretty obvious to me that that I'm having problems. So I decided. I have a couple of friends that my younger brother. One end, he was in the Air Force. He was an Air Force mechanic. And he was working around airplane engines. They made a lot of noise. He went in to have his hearing test, and he claimed a disability, and he's getting about $150 a month in disability pay. But anyway, I when I finally decided that I'm going to need hearing aids, stop kidding myself, I made a call to the Illinois Veterans Administration and got a hold of a guy who is a local man, covers most of northern Illinois.
He's a veteran service officer, correct?
Right.
A VSO.
Right, and the only reason why I wanted him, I wanted to know how to go about making an appointment and where I could go. Well, he suggested I could go either to Hines or to
Bobby Brown, West Side.
Yeah, but anyway, the closest one was in Roselle, and I said,
okay,
let's just hop, chicken, and jump, you know. So anyway, we made an appointment there, and I went in and got a hearing test and so on and so forth. Much to surprise, I got a bill for $50 for the hearing test. And I called up and I said, well, they didn't ask me if I had any insurance or anything. You know, they just gave me the test and gave me a bill. They says, well, give us the insurance information. We'll see if we can't get you credited for that. But I got the hearing aids, and I've been using them now for 3 or 4 days, and they seem to work quite well. And the guy from Illinois filled out the paperwork for me for his information, and he says, "Now this is a service-related disability," and I says, "Well, after 50 years, you know, of getting along fine, I really can't claim it was a disability at any point in time. So in good conscience, I can't make a disability claim."
Okay.
And I knew that the hearing aids were going to be free, and I figured, well, that's a big enough chunk for me to take out of the government for being a veteran. But the thing is that the treatment that I got now is a hell of a lot better than it was 35 years or 40 years ago. When I went.
Because you know. They're holding the VA to some sort of accountability now. All right, there's like, I've noticed the difference. I was in for 38 years. I've been going to the VA since the 80s, all right, the 1980s, and I've noticed a marked difference in the way you're treated. So I'm glad that you're a very proud veteran. Thank you for your service in the Navy. And I'm glad that you're proud enough not to claim a disability, but I still think after you told me your initial story that that's definitely a disability. That's like someone poking your ear with a pencil, you know? And like in combat, someone pokes your ear with a pencil, and that would be combat-related disability. But what you did was for training and was, you know, for the military. A normal person wouldn't go into that pressure thing and pop their ears.
Well, the fact of the matter is that it has never been a disability. I think at my age, I would need hearing aids regardless of previous. But the one ear that I was having all the trouble with, you know, and the doctor looked at it. They had a doctor there that looked at my ear right away. He says, "It's a good thing you got out of there." He says, "You damn near ruptured your eardrum." So. Anyway, that's my story for what it's worth.
Thank you so much, Bob. And again, thank you for your service.
My pleasure. Take care.
So, Paul.
Yes.
We got the other Larry on?
We got another caller.
All right.
Good. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello. Who's calling?
Hi, my name is Lisa Madden. I'm president of Lake County Honor Flight.
Nice. We just talked about your honor flight thing right when we opened up. So
great,
tell us about the Foss Park Golf Course.
Well, the event is taking place a week from tomorrow, actually, Sunday, July 20th. It is at the Foss Park Golf Course in North Chicago, Illinois. That's 3124 Argonne Drive in North Chicago. Registration starts at 12. This is actually, it's called the inaugural John W. Davis Jr. Memorial Golf Outing. So it's the very first one that we're hosting. So we're really excited about it.
Yeah, we got a guy that comes down to our Dunkin' Donuts veterans over in Niles. Well, we're meeting at the Bunker Hill Woods, and he's very big with the Lake County Honor Flight people. He's always pushing your fundraisers. So I says, hey, I'll put it up on the show.
Thank you so much. Yeah, several of the guys from the Dunkin' Donuts group have been on our flight. So yeah, we love them. I go down there for their events whenever we can. Yeah, we love them.
All right. So was this Foss Park Golf Course, was it originally part of Great Lakes? Because I know they opened up most of the military golf courses for the public to use.
I'm honestly not sure of the answer to that question. I'm not sure myself.
Because when I looked at the map of where it was, it's right on the west end of Great Lakes.
Oh, okay. You know what? I'm sorry. I don't know the answer to that. I feel like I knew the answer to that, and I just don't remember at the moment. But Foss Park Golf Course is where we actually do our departures for our flight. So they've been very good to us, throughout the years. And John Davis Jr., he was a volunteer there. He was an avid golfer, first of all. So, he's very near and dear to the Foss Park family. He was also a Vietnam veteran. He was in the Navy, and he lived in the area. He worked at the VA after getting out of the military after the Navy. So he's very near and dear to that area, and he actually passed away 3 years ago, and his wife is one of our dearest volunteers and supporters, and so she's working closely with us on this too. So yeah, we appreciate your support. It being our first event, we're really hoping for a success. We have some fun things planned. We've got raffles, silent auctions, and it'll just be a fun event all around.
Yeah, so if you're up north there or down south there or anywhere in the listening, or you're coming in from Australia and you're listening to us on the internet, and you're coming in for Australia and you're going to have a layover at O'Hare and you want to have a good time golfing, sign up on Eventbrite. Look it up on Eventbrite on Sunday, July 20th, up in North Chicago. Don't let the North Chicago fool you. There's different parts of North Chicago. Anyways.
Yes, a lot of people assume oh, that's Chicago. No, not the city of Chicago. We're actually, North Chicago, which is next to Waukegan. So we're almost at the Wisconsin border. Yeah. There is a North Chicago. And, you can also check out our website too, which is LakeCountyHonorFlight.org. Yes. It's under our events tab. I think it's third down. You click on events and kind of scroll. It's the third event down.
Yeah, there it is.
The first event is actually our next honor flight, which is August 1st. So you'll see that first.
Yeah, so Matt just pulled that up. And it's also linked on my American Legion webpage, so post104.org in the events section. I scanned this in and linked it. Yeah, there it is.
Thank you so much. And, of course, all the proceeds go towards taking our veterans to Washington, D.C. for their honor flights. We fundraise all year because we're 100% funded, by donations. So it all goes to the veterans.
Yeah, I went as an escort for my cousin because, I came in 1982 and they're not doing anything except the Vietnam era, which is 1975 and before.
Right. Right.
And my cousin was, my cousin's husband was going on the honor flight, and he asked for me to go as an escort for him. And of course, the escorts don't go for free. That came out of my pocket, but it was It was worth doing it. So.
Oh, same here. That's how I started. I was a guardian in 2017. So same thing. I kind of didn't know what to expect. I knew a little bit about the honor flights, and but I wanted to get involved, and I went as a guardian, and it really that was the beginning. I was just hooked. Then it was just such a great organization.
So so after in July, what would they be? July 26th, you should call in and let us know how it all went.
Yeah, I will do that. Yeah, so that's the following Saturday. I definitely will.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Very nice.
All right, Paul. So we were on the doxing there, and I was saying how it's a cowardly act, all right? Because you're not standing up for yourself. You're not standing up, and the people that do it, they're not saying that my name. I'm not getting on television, right? National television. I'm not getting on my podcast. I'm not putting my address, my name out there and everything else. And I'm saying, this is where this guy lives, right? This is where his kids go to school. This is where all that is. And by the way, this is where I live, and this is, where my kids go to school and everything. All right.
Right.
I just do that from a position of anonymity. All right. And that's what terrorists do. They're anonymous. Right. All right. People seem to be a lot braver when no one knows who they are, or they think that no one could track them down. Or in the worst case is when they've realized there's no repercussions for their actions. It's not like Mike Tyson said, it's all fun and games until someone punches you in the face.
Right.
You could have the biggest mouth in the world, but all of a sudden you show up and you get punched in the face. So when we hit, and now they want to dox these agents and these National Guard guys and the police that are going out there to try to maintain civil order. And they're claiming, this is tyranny, that we're being oppressed, that this is a martial law, and that it's fascism. Actually, what they're doing is fascism. It's fascist tactics that they're using, right? And again, terrorism. The ultimate goal of terrorism is to make the government so oppressive that anything else looks better.
Right.
All right. So so that's doxing, right? And it, the people that do it, the good doers, the
manipulated ones.
The manipulated ones, the simple people, the tolls, right? The sheep, right? The cattle that you stampede into the enemy camp, right? They don't know what they're doing. They're just stampeding, right? But if I machine gun, if I stand in front of those cattle and volley fire into them to protect the camp, then all of a sudden I'm the bad guy because I'm killing innocent animals, right?
Right.
So you're kind of stuck in the middle there. And that's, having been a police officer and you being law enforcement, their prosecutor, that's the worst part of it, is you're stuck on both ends. You do your job and you're getting punished by the bad people. You don't do your job, you're letting the bad people punish everyone else, or you're getting punished by the people that employ you. You're stuck on both ends. You can't
win for losing.
Yeah. And so who's going to do that for minimum wage? All right?
Yeah.
Now, what has to be done with this, I believe it, is that society polices itself. And what happens with society is only what society accepts. All right? What society and whatever community accepts. I was, my first daughter, right? I'm walking her down the street, and this is in Brighton Park, and she's in a stroller, and she hated wearing hats. She hated wearing hats. She's constantly pulling off her hat, and all the old Polish ladies are practically ripping me to shreds because my child isn't wearing a hat. And it was that's community policing, right? Where society maintains itself right there. You don't see that now. If a lady shouted at someone, get a hat on that kid, they either ignore her or they go after her or they scream at her, chase her away and everything. When people have become isolated because they're afraid of the screaming meanies. All right? I think that's a good term for them. They're screaming meanies. All right? The people out there that just scream and attack and yell, and they have no solution for everything. And you're always the bad guy, and they're always the victim, and they're always the good guy. Until you take a person and you say, hey, we're locking you up for assault on that old lady. All she did is say, put a hat on your kid, and you went screaming at her and you made her afraid. That's assault. You made her think she was going to get hit or something. And we start locking up people for treating other citizens like that, then they'll stop doing it. But the police can lock them up all day, but if the judges release them, or if the juries find them not guilty, because they're like, well, that doesn't really seem like a crime to me, or that's not really a victimization. There's no real victim. Let these guys go. Word gets around. There's nothing but an inconvenience for these people, and they continue to do it until it gets worse. Then other people see it. They get on the bandwagon. Well, there's a thing out in Elk Grove Village, I think, out in the western suburbs there. A bunch of kids got on e-bikes and blocked the entire road and would just ride with impunity. with impunity, going through red lights, everything with impunity. All right. And nothing, it went on the news. I wonder how many of these kids got arrested or how many of the parents received tickets for these kids. So unless the families and people put a stop to it or demand that these judges or the jury, what about doxing the jury? These people the juries get afraid that if they find the person guilty, right, or they find the person innocent, that one side or the other is going to come out and say, hey, this is where these people live. All right, so we ready to go to break?
Oh, not yet. We got 2 minutes.
2 minutes. And that happened with the Supreme Court even before the decision came out. Right? They were at the Supreme Court guy's house. How many people went to jail for that?
Nobody.
Not one person. Nope. So if you could get away with screaming at a Supreme Court judge when he's off duty at his home, before a decision has even been made officially, right? Someone leaked that, right? Officially, this decision's made. If you get away with that, what's to prevent you from doing that to some old lady that got called for jury duty? Nothing. The person that does it, the Supreme Court judge, those people, they should be in prison. They put J6ers in prison. Those people should be in prison because they knew what they were doing was wrong. Because if the Supreme Court judge showed up, let's say he picked out one person. He goes, hey, I know where that guy lives, right? And then he calls all of his relatives and all of his friends, and they all show up at this guy's house where he's got his 3-year-old kid, and he's got his wife there, and he has a job in retail or something. And they show up at his job and they show up at his house and they start protesting him, how would he feel? He would demand justice. I'm a private citizen. Why can you do that to me? There is a difference between public service, but you shouldn't be a target as a public servant. You shouldn't be a target of the mob mentality. And when we come back, for the second half of the show, I think we're going to call about something else, which is even more dangerous than doxing. It's called swatting.
Want to read some action-packed, exciting pulp fiction? Read the works of Michael Tooman, now featuring their international crime thriller, I Married a Bot Madam. Available on Amazon in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle editions. The paperback is also available at other book retailers. Check out Michael Tooman's webpage at Scilink.net. That's Papa, Sierra, Yankee, Lima, India, November, Kilo, dot, November, Echo, Tango.
Join your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvid on our weekly radio hour, Chief Guard of the Republic, where we talk about all things national security, defense, personal security, safety, and dealing with law enforcement situations. Call in 847-931-1410. Ask us questions. We will get you answers. Every week, Saturday, noon to 1 on 1410 AM WRMN Elgin. Streaming on WRMN1410.com. Chat with us on WRMN's YouTube live channel.
Your hometown radio station since 1949. We are WRMN AM 1410, Elgin time, 1 o'clock.
I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. President Trump took a tour of the flood devastation in central Texas on Friday. His visit came 1 week after heavy rainfall caused the Guadalupe River in Kerr County to surge by 26 feet in less than 1 hour, and tragically, the flash flood downstream killed at least 121 people. Tasha Stevens reports millions of dollars have already been raised to support Texas residents who were impacted.
According to the Community Foundation of the Texas Hill Country, $30 million has been raised by donors within and outside of Texas. The foundation said the first $5 million in emergency grants are already being distributed to vetted nonprofits across the Hill Country. It comes after flash flooding hit central Texas over the 4th of July weekend, killing over 120 people and leaving more than 160 missing. The president and first lady visited Texas on Friday. Tasha Stevens reporting.
ICE has opened a child labor trafficking investigation into 2 California marijuana farms. That follows a raid on the 2 farms in which agents say they found 10 underage illegal immigrants, just a portion of the 200 illegals who were detained. A plea deal for the mastermind of the 9/11 attacks would appear to be off the table.
A divided federal appeals court has thrown out an agreement that would have allowed accused September 11th mastermind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed to plead guilty in a deal sparing him the death penalty for al-Qaeda's 2001 attacks. Friday's decision suggests no quick end to the long struggle by the U.S. military and successive administrations to bring to justice the man charged with planning one of the deadliest attacks on the United States. Mohammed is accused of developing the plot to crash hijacked airliners into the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. One hijacked plane crashed in Pennsylvania. Thousands died in the attacks. Keith Peters, Washington.
More from townhall.com.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now.
800-583-0141.
Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS.
Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start.
Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems.
We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ the Better Business Bureau.
You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com
or call 800-583-0141. That's 800-583-0141.
Tax Relief Advocates, real solutions for real people.
Correspondent Julie Walker reports on a preliminary report into the tragic Air India crash that happened last month, now blamed for the deaths of 260 people.
Fuel to the Air India plane that crashed last month was cut off moments before it went down, according to India's Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau. The report also notes confusion by both pilots over the change to the fuel switch setting, causing a loss of engine thrust shortly after takeoff. Pilot and analyst Terry Tozer says flipping the fuel switch initiates a restart.
Unfortunately, the altitude was so low that the engines were only beginning to recover, and they didn't have enough time.
The London-bound plane crashed June 12th, killing at least 260, including 19 on the ground. I'm Julie Walker.
Breaking news and analysis can be found at townhall.com. Lisa Dwyer reports on a town downstream from Kerrville, Texas. It did have a warning system in place before the devastating 4th of July floods.
As a wall of water was heading downstream, a long, flat tone blared over the tiny river community of Comfort, Texas, in a last-ditch warning for those who had missed cell phone alerts to get out. Everyone in Comfort, Texas survived the flooding. Comfort is no stranger to tragic flooding. In 1978, 33 people were killed, 15 of them in Comfort. So when an opportunity arose last year to expand the community's emergency warning system, residents buckled down to find the funding. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
An Atlanta father will spend the rest of his life in prison for starving his young daughter to death and mistreating his 2 sons. Investigators say the man locked the children in separate rooms and deprived them of food and water. More from townhall.com.
When disaster strikes, flood or fire, every second counts. At Emergency Construction Group, They specialize in immediate response and same-day service for any residential, commercial, or industrial emergency across the Chicagoland area. With over 30 years of experience, they've got the expertise, manpower, and equipment to handle any size loss fast. They follow strict IICRC guidelines to restore your property the right way, the first time. Their team values transparency, constant communication, and strong ethical standards because your peace of mind matters. Licensed, bonded, and insured, they're here for you 24/7, 365 days a year. Call 855-4ECG now. That's 855-432-4669. Or visit their website at emergencyconstructiongroup.com and let Emergency Construction Group put your life back together one step at a time. That's Emergency Construction Group. Your satisfaction is their passion.
Fixed Bayonets, comrades, we're back for the second half of the Chief Guard of the Republic radio show. We got 2 listeners on the line. You want to take another one, Paul?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, howdy. Yeah,
Who's calling?
Oh, my name's David. Yeah, I called you a week or 2 ago.
All right, David.
You know, it's sad hearing about what's going on down there in Texas. They're trying to come up with excuses about why they didn't have safety systems. And, you know, when you start thinking about penny wise and pound foolish, you know, I'm a big fan of Ben Franklin, and penny wise and pound foolish is one of his most famous expressions, or his catchphrases. And the idea that the Texas legislature, in the news just the other day, they're doing a special session. And everybody caught the headlines. Oh, well, they're doing a special session about coming up with emergency systems.
Yeah, closing the barn door after the horses all fled. That's what politicians do.
But it's even worse than that. Their special session is to make sure that Democrats can't vote.
Okay, well, again, we're not trying to be political with one party or another. But one thing that I just heard on this radio station on their news was that these guys with the what is that the kids camp, I forget the name. The Mystic Kids Camp. All right, this guy expanded his camp, and he put it in a floodplain, and he what do you call lobbied to the point where he could put these buildings. Where he could expand his camp into the floodplain, and he lobbied to have that floodplain decreased so that he could say that these are safe. So there's really not one guilty party in all this. Like, it's a manipulation. It's terrible. Yes, there should be alarms. There should be reasonableness. If you have a floodplain now, okay, so this guy petitioned to have this stuff. He's dead. You know, let's not beat on the dead. But let's find the people that he petitioned that said, okay, we're going to let you do that. And then let's try them. And let's show if they're going to be, this is called responsibility and being held accountable. Because it's, you know, you can't go over the whole, like Michigan. They blamed the governor and they flipped the state in Michigan because of the water problem. How much control did the governor have over one city's water?
Oh, he did. That's
he was in absolute control of it? He could say yes or no?
Yeah, absolutely, because what he did was he declared that he was the special master over the city governments, and then he made a contract with the water system that had control of Flint water, and he told the city, he told them to flip the switch, and instead of getting, it wasn't Lake Michigan water, it was Lake, is that not Huron? I'm trying to think of which, the water that comes down there, and instead of getting the Great Lakes water, he was getting that nasty stuff that was coming out of it. Was like an
river water.
Yeah. It was industrial ditch that was downstream from the auto parts manufacturing. The automakers and all of their auto parts were made upstream of that river, and they knew it was poisonous the minute that they threw that switch. And what's even uglier about that, it was Flint is half white and half black, and they pretended that they only poisoned the blacks. No, and it was 100,000 people each, 100,000 blacks, 100,000 whites, and they poisoned them all. And then the headlines played it as if it was only poisoning black people, ha, ha, ha. No, it's some gross, and when you're talking about Texas, I heard that owner died. This is the first I've heard that he lobbied to be able to expand it, because in the obituary kind of thing that I read, it sounded like he was trying to get safety systems put in, but they weren't authorized. But if he was actually the one that lobbied to make sure that he could build closer to the river, then apparently he had that place for 40 years. And knew what the floods were like. I think he went through one in the 80s, and another one that wasn't nearly as bad in the 90s or something.
They keep saying about these floods that it's a once-in-a-century deal.
Right.
Every decade.
Texas,
it's a once-in-a-century deal every decade.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, and so in the state of Texas, they pretty much outlawed the use of the words climate change. So if you're saying that somebody authorized it for him, he lobbied to have this done, and then the Texas regulators allowed it to happen, that's because they refuse to acknowledge that climate change is real.
It's not.
And
it's not. It's called weather.
It's called pollution has made the ocean so hot.
All the pollution that mankind has ever put out is like 1/10 of a burp from one volcano. So should we cap all the volcanoes?
Not.
Yes.
No, it's not true. That's not true at all. The buildup just from those.
The only thing that makes it close. The only thing that makes it close is they attribute forest fires to man-caused pollution.
Well, let's say, are you familiar with the huge fishing nets that the corporate ships are using? They're like 20-mile-long fishing nets, and they drag everything out of the ocean, and then they cull through it, and it takes hours and hours to cull through it, so everything that they toss overboard is usually dead. And so they take 20 miles at a time worth of scraping the ocean and then toss dead stuff back. So they've made, not only have they killed the life forms, but then they create a stagnant water. And the ocean has been going through that now for decades. Those drift nets, that's what they call them. And these drift nets, these corporate farmers, the corporate fishermen, is really it. And those
are you talking about Japan or China?
It's worldwide. I mean, they're doing it.
Are you talking about Japan or China? I mean, you could keep saying it's worldwide and everything, but how do we make sure that the Japanese who like go after dolphins and whales and everything else on a mass scale, it's a big industry for them, way more than the U.S. industry has. How do we make them stop, and how do we make the Chinese stop? All right.
Well, we thank Trump for that, because we're having the
David, is it
of that fish?
It's David, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, the sale of the
David,
fish.
we're trying not to. I don't want to be a political screamer here and start screaming about certain politicians and naming names and everything. There's flaws on everyone. There's only two perfect people in this world ever, and that was Christ and his mother. All right, ever in this world. All right, so we're not going to name political names or political parties here. I know lots of stuff, but I'm trying not to be a screamer on the show, and be political. We're trying to talk about, really what we're talking about today was doxing and swatting, which we're getting into. and we're in Elgin here, and kind of local, and things that pertain to very local people here. What's happened in Texas?
I'll wrap up with,
okay,
as
Dave.
you're talking about the swatting and the doxing.
Yes.
It's well known. In fact, it's an easy. The American Bar Association has been decrying the death threats to judges. Death threats. And they're getting, I think there were 187 death threats in a 2-week period, less than a month ago, to federal judges. And every one of them went against that guy that shall not be named, right? They were court cases.
So he personally threatened with death these judges?
Well, let's say his supporters.
There's no well. Did he or did he not?
What's that?
Did he, is there actual documentation published, verbal recordings, or a text, a tweet, a document signed by him that calls his followers out to kill judges? Do you have possession of any of those?
Well, that's kind of a foolish question.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't, because you just assumed. You just assumed. You made an assumption that because of who he is or what he is or how he's going, that this is the reason these judges are getting death threats.
Well, it's you know how to do an investigation.
I did. I worked on the Lefko investigation. Remember Judge Lefko?
Not offhand. But
okay, she got murdered. She was a local judge in Chicago.
Her husband.
What?
Her husband got murdered.
Well, no, yeah, you're right. Her husband and her mother got murdered, but the guy was after her. Right. He wanted to kill her. And even the feds got that wrong. But they thought it was from this white supremacist down in southern Illinois that was in jail. And they went all over him and his followers and everything. And it turned out to be some guy that had been in her court that she had treated like crap over and over and over. And he finally got fed up. And he went over to her house because he found out where she lived. She wasn't home. He killed her husband and her mother, and then he fled, and everyone's looking for him, and he was found by a Wisconsin state trooper who pulled him over, not knowing that he was wanted for anything, and this guy committed suicide. All right, and he had what he did. All right, so all right, Dave, thank you very much for your call. We're going to get back to
the point I was trying to make is that you know how to do an investigation. Look up the American Bar Association and what's their take on it. It's easy to look up. They know who's doing these things because 187 of them all were judges that were fighting Trump. And Trump has gone out, and for you to pretend that a document, Trump pretends to be God Almighty, the great eyes. And
bye, Dave. Another caller. Dave, thanks for calling in, but I'm trying not to be political. Who's our next caller?
I'm trying to save you.
Yeah. Oh,
hey, Dennis.
It's Dennis. It's Cleveland Dennis.
Hey, Dennis. Right. I've been hearing all this, and I don't know. You take a pencil and nix that number. Listen, I love the show today because what Paul had to say at the start of the show. I know a little bit of something about my gypsy peeps. I grew up in Cleveland. They were friends of friends. Been to the wedding where they drink a little too much of that bottom shelf, and they start punching out their relatives and their friends, and oh, Lord. But listen, I come here, I had my kids in a Lutheran church. This guy had himself in a Lutheran church school. Okay, it was kind of an utter failure, really, but I'm telling you like it is. I meet the guy, I'm talking to him. Yeah, he's from Cleveland, too. I said, what brought you here? He never said. But I found out, but it don't matter. I just know about him. When I was over in England, I've seen them on the road. They drive around in caravans and do what they do over
Those
there.
are the Tinkers.
Buddy.
Those are the Tinkers.
Yeah.
They're a little bit different.
Yeah, I guess, but they're all over Europe. I know the history. But I love what Paul said. The bottom line is how they will try to influence an outcome, legal or otherwise, okay? The Romanis, what have you.
Yes, well,
they live amongst us, and I'm not complaining about them, and I just want to say that what Paul had to say, yeah, I know about it, and it's kind of ugly. They do what they do, and,
Paul.
You talk about, you guys just end up talking about the law. I'm talking about just in...
Well, no, I'm talking in real world, too, because I have dealt with the Romani, all right, as a police officer on several occasions, all right? Paul, I want to ask you something. And who's to be feared more, or to be... And I'm not saying fear, because we're trying not to have anyone fear. I think knowledge is in protecting yourself. You don't have to be afraid somewhere. You could be paranoid. Paranoid isn't really fear. Paranoid is protecting yourself. But sovereign citizen or Romani, who should you be most concerned with?
Well, it depends. I mean, I would be, if I was a homeowner and they came to my door, you'd be more concerned about the Romani. If you're a police officer and you're doing a traffic stop, the sovereign citizens, I have a friend who's a psychologist. He listens to the show, and they very often, they sue judges and they put liens on them. And when I was at the Attorney General's office, there was a big problem with that, because the judges then would come to us, and then they get into federal court, and then they file liens against you. They file liens against prosecutors and stuff like that. And it's very much of a problem. And they are the ones, they have their own driver's licenses, and they tend to be armed with automatic weapons. There's a bunch of issues out there where poor local police or sheriffs were pulled over one of them, and they were attacked in a traffic stop. The funny thing is they have this belief that the only law enforcement that is legal is the sheriff. They don't believe in any other law enforcement. And, one guy came to me and he goes, I have this case. They want me to serve this guy. And he lives out in the sticks and everything. I go, serve him by publication. And then he goes, why? I go, I'm just telling you. He went out there and we had nothing but trouble with him. So it's a sliding scale. If you're a homeowner, you're an elderly person where they're going to shake your chimney or con you or break into your house, you got the gypsy. If you're law enforcement doing your activity, doing a traffic stop, and the guy in front of you is a sovereign citizen, he's the bad guy. So it's a sliding scale with me.
So one thing, like you're saying, is they do a swatting, all right, by civil suit means, all right? So so they don't agree with the legal system, which is great. They don't agree with it. They say, I'm not going to abide by it, but then they go and use it against you.
But I'll tell you something else. Whenever they do something, they attach a 3 or a 1 cent stamp to it. And the reason why they do that, and they kind of are correct, there has to be a value on something. And then whenever they give you papers, it's got a 3, a 2, or a 1 cent stamp on it, because then they feel that brings them into the realm of making it an issue. And they do that very often. And they used to say, look at this goof, he's got a stamp. I go, no, he's telling you there's consideration there. See, they take things and then they can fool a judge that way. Because when this first comes in, if a judge is untrained, he actually, in federal court particularly, they treat this as real. They have to, because he's a litigant. And then he ends up getting sued by the sovereign citizen, and a lien gets put on his house. And he says, and then you'll find judges are recusing themselves after the first time because they don't know how to handle it, because they're treating this as a legitimate thing. These people, they swat the legal system. They take what's real and they subvert it to their own.
Yeah. And so that's again, now the most dangerous thing here is, like we're trying to tell people how to keep safe and everything. And you never know when you're going to get that angry neighbor or a coworker or anyone, just someone for no reason. More of the time as police officers, we had involvement with people that were not in their best state of mind, all right? And they would take things out of you, so you're more likely target. So you got to know how to react to this. So they may call the police, right? And a lot of times these could be juveniles too. And it might be even adults using their kids to do this, because that's what the gangbangers were doing that. You have a 19-year-old gangbanger, and they're going to stick the gun in the hand of the 15-year-old every time, because he's only going to be a juvenile. You're going to be an adult. We're getting a little feedback here. Yeah. And so if the police come to your house, obey all their orders. Keep yourself alive. Don't get dead. Don't scream about your rights, your civil rights and everything. Really, if you have nothing to hide, right, they'll figure it out in a little bit, right, that it's the wrong address or nothing's happening here. And then after they go and you feel that your rights were truly violated, then make a complaint. Complain about that. You get a lawyer, right? File a complaint with the police department, file a complaint with the city, until the city or the police department take enough action to ensure that they're not swatting everyone. Like, do a due diligence. The unfortunate thing about that is you get 100 calls for service. 99 of them are absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense. One of them's legit. How do you know which one's legit? So if you have to slow down that legit call, here's another reason why no one in the world should like swatting, all right? You're taking police officers away from what might be a legitimate call. All right, so you send them out on an illegitimate call. Next thing you know, you got some bruisers kicking in your own door, right, and beating the snot out of you, and you're calling for the police, and I'm sorry, you just sent them somewhere else. That would be nice. That would be sweet if that happened to these guys, but it doesn't. It happens to someone else. Some old person, somewhere else is calling for help, but meanwhile, all the police are over at this fake call you made. And you don't care about that poor person that's suffering because of that.
That used to be the old-time thing with the old burglary rings. They knew what the police response time was, so they'd call in a phony call at the other end of the district or whatever, and then the police would go over there, and then they'd go do the burglary at the business, and they'd be out by the time anybody could respond to it.
Yeah, and how do you know it's not a legit call?
You don't.
See, now here's, and there's so many ways that you get around this. And the thing is, with enough people, enough analysts, right, and enough subpoenas and warrants for phone records and everything, over the course of a couple months, you could pinpoint one of these swatting things, and you could probably find the exact person responsible. It would take hundreds of thousands of dollars in man hours, all right, away from everything else to find this, right? But it should be corrected on the lowest level. If I found out my kids were doing that, they'd have a severe talking to. I'd be embarrassed. I would stop them. I don't know if I would turn them in, but I would put a stop to it. I says, that's the worst thing you could do. Why are you doing that? That's as bad. What is the commandment? Thou shalt not false witness, right?
Bear false witness.
Bear false witness.
Bear false witness.
And so you're violating a commandment right there. And we'll be back for the last quarter of the show after these remarks.
Hey, Tammy, I just made an AI fact checker for the show. Do you want to try it out?
Sure. Talk Time with Tammy and Friends is the best show on WRMN.
Oh, Talk Time with Tammy and Friends is the best show on WRMN, huh? What a bold, subjective opinion masquerading as a fact. Sure, I bet you and all 12 of her fans feel that way. While I can confirm the show exists, yay for reality, its best status is completely debatable. And yes, congratulations, it does air Monday through Thursday, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Let me know when Tammy wins an Emmy or something. Until then, this is a hard nope on objectivity. Grade 310. Fact, Talk Time with Tammy and Friends airs weekdays, Monday, Thursday, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. on WRMN. Try again when you want to talk about facts, not fangirling.
I'll work on it.
You better.
If your idea of therapy involves a fishing rod, a tree stand, or a campfire, then you need American Outdoors Radio. Host John Cruz speaks your language, whether it's about the best lures, tracking game, or that one buddy who always forgets to bring the beer. John's got the tips to sharpen your aim, the hacks to pack lighter, and the stories to keep you entertained. Again, that's American Outdoor Radio with John Cruz. Saturdays at 7 a.m. on WRMN 1410. Or stream it at WRMN1410.com. Get ready to outfish, outhunt, and outcamp 'em all on American Outdoor Radio with John Cruz.
Are you prepared for an emergency or disaster? Because it's not a matter of if, but when. Don't find yourself saying,
I'll trust water bottles and a flashlight to save the day, but I'll be proved wrong.
With a tornado approaching, I'll realize that I lack a wheelchair-accessible shelter.
When the floodwaters rise, I'll be up in the attic with 20 cans of beans. It's a recipe for disaster.
let's prepare so we all have a better story to tell. Get started at ready.gov/older adults. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Clutter happens, but junk doesn't have to weigh you down. At the Junk Luggers, we're your full-service junk removal and hauling pros, tackling everything from single-item pickups to major cleanouts. We handle the heavy lifting, and with our commitment to the green way, we rehome and recycle to keep your unwanted items out of landfills. So, whether you're clearing out the garage, downsizing, or saying goodbye to old furniture, we make the process eco-friendly and easy. Call 1-800-LUG-JUNK or visit junkluggers.com today. Let's save your space and the planet together.
Political party poopers got you down? Shake it off and join me, Dennis Sonar Green, every weekday from 4 to 6 p.m. on WRMN for A Political Talk Show, where we cut through the doom and gloom with a focus on America first, constitutional values, and a populist perspective that puts you, the citizen, at the center of the conversation. At WRMN, the talk of the town, we're not afraid to challenge the status quo and bring you the straight talk you need. Whether you're frustrated with the political establishment or looking for a clear, some nonsense analysis, this show has you covered. Tune in. Let's take on the issues together with a fresh, unfiltered approach. Catch us every weekday from 4 to 6 p.m. on WRMN, A Political Talk Show. WRMN, the talk of the town.
Fixed Bayonets, comrades, we're back for the last quarter of the show today. We talked a little bit about doxing, and now we're talking a little bit more about swatting. And one of the things on the police department, like I said, you get the gangbangers, unfortunately, I lived in one of the districts I worked in, which was not a good choice of mine. I haven't made some of the best choices of my life. But you get these gangbangers going, I know where you live. I go, oh, okay. So then you go to your boss and you go, I know where you live too. Now, is that a threat? But you know what? They'll beef saying that you're threatening them. But it's all right for them to threaten you. Let me tell you something. The ICE people, if they're wearing masks to protect their identity, it's pretty serious. And if you don't think they don't have intelligence services that have told them that they're at risk, that there are credible threats, man shoots a gun at the ICE agents. Okay, they get him and they send him to federal prison, U.S. federal prison. Why is he okay with going to U.S. federal prison and not just going back to his home country? Because
it's better here than at his home country.
It's better in federal prison here. Yeah. If we deport him, he's going back to Venezuela or wherever where he is. He was told, if you come back, we are throwing you in prison, because they released a lot of the prisoners there. So now he has nothing to lose. When you know you're dealing with someone with nothing to lose, you really have to be careful. You really have to be careful. And this guy could be dumb as a bag of hammers shooting at the police and everything, but he doesn't need to be smart, because there's our own people out there that don't believe that our law enforcement officers on the ground level, all right, where the boots hit the ground, are doing the right thing. They're enforcing the laws. They're not doing anything else but enforcing the laws that are on the books, all right? So the people that are defending the lawbreakers and fighting the law enforcement, those are the people you got to look out for. Those are your enemies, all right? Anyone that says this is fascism, it's not. You know, it's not even close. What the tactics of the other side right now in the law enforcement debate, those are fascist tactics. All right? And they scream at the police because everyone assumes that the police are a fascist organization. And people don't even know what fascist means. Fascist is where the state has control of the, they don't have, like communism where a state has control of all the production means. Fascism, the state has control of the people that control the private means. So there's like capitalist, and then they control everything else. Like, this is the type of car you're going to make. You can make a profit over it, but we're going to tell you how to make that. And they're this reminds me exactly what you're saying, and it's kind of sad because we haven't learned this in like 107 years. The tactics that these people are using are the same tactics that people used in the October and November Revolution of 1917. And they're getting a playbook from their spiritual leader Lenin and Marx, and they're using. Let's not forget Trotsky.
That's right, and who got a headache in Cuba?
No, Mexico City.
The famous dance in the 1920s was the Fox-Trotsky. Remember that, but they're taking a playbook that's about 107 years old. And the sad thing is our people are not smart enough to see that. They're worse than sheep because they're actually
they're not suffering like they were. They're not suffering like they were in 1917 in Russia, that had been at war for 3 years, all right? That had not a corrupt so much the czar, had an ineffectual, impotent czar, all right? He was impotent and ineffectual, and it was the actual capitalists, all right, the business owners, all right, the production teams that actually made him abdicate. And they thought with their money and their power, because they weren't really...
They would placate the enemy, and it was the opposite.
That they would elect themselves into power in the Duma, all right?
Right.
But you had Trotsky and Lenin, and Trotsky flooded the Duma with his people, and they voted down these business owners. They voted them down, and they took over the government because they had more people in the Duma. That's where the Bolshevik comes from. Bolshoi, the larger percentage. These business owners were the Mensheviks, the minority.
The minority.
All right? So all he did was, it's like when you have a union meeting, right? and normally just your representatives show up there, but someone wants to pass something, and they know that the union isn't going to the full timers in the
rank and file,
the people in the union, the officers in the union want to pass something, or they don't want to pass something, but the rank and file want to pass it. So suddenly, when normally only 100 people show up for this meeting, you got 1,000 people there, and 900 of them are shouting down the 100 and saying, "This is what we want." That's what happened in the Duma, all right?
Right.
And that's what you're getting now in New York, right? You throw a bunch of people in there. They throw out the Mensheviks, the current mayor who's impotent, right? The former governor that decided to run, right? And now you got the Republican guy.
He was thrown out of office, by the way.
What? The governor
he was thrown out of office as the governor.
Yeah, because maybe I'm good enough to be mayor, you know? Anyways, so these three, all right, well, the two there, the governor and the current mayor, split the ticket, and what comes? Your Bolshevik guy comes in.
Yeah, the commie guy,
The commie guy. But he got the most there, right? If one or the other of them hadn't run, and it's all egos or whatever, or maybe they were, okay, we're not trying, I'm getting political.
They split the vote. In other words, it's a tactic.
They split the vote. It's a tactic. All right. And you're going to, this is a tactic, right? If you create fear and don't let people come out to vote too, that's a tactic. All right. If you create a fake or a problem.
Straw man issue. A phony issue.
All right. We got another caller. Yeah, don't let me get, who's there?
Hello?
Hi, this is Art.
Art.
Yes, from Logan Square, and I'm going to say some nice things about Officer Eddie Mack.
Okay.
If I could.
Yeah, go ahead.
Years ago, I come home one day, and my father was very mature and showed strong leadership. He said to me, "Sit down, I want to talk to you." And he says, "Your mother's okay, I'm okay, nobody's hurt. The police were here, and we got robbed." So he released it to me very calmly to tell me that my mother let some people in the house to check the water pressure, and it was some gypsies, and they robbed us, but everybody's okay.
Well, thank God, because the way you first worded it, I thought that the police robbed them.
No. And what happened, so nothing comes of it. Stuff was stolen. We didn't know, but we were, okay. And my mother fell for their, spiel about, coming into the house and checking the water pressure and stuff like that. So then months ago, if not a year later, I get contacted by Officer Eddie Mack, and he says he wants to come and talk to me. And him and his friend, Officer Fitzgerald, come to my parents' house, and nobody's home. They're talking, and he says, "We caught the people who robbed your parents. It's a gypsy, and he was in court today. And part of his plea bargain to get out of getting convicted or going to jail was that he's going to make reparations to someone." And my mother's name came up. I don't know if Officer Mack brought it up or if the gypsy brought it up. And he says, "They're going to make reparations to you. So today we got to go over, and you're going to get money back." And I don't know if this is real or if this is an episode from the Twilight Zone or something. And I says, "Okay." And we get in the unmarked car, and they drive me to the lawyer's location west of the Brickyard Mall in Chicago. And he says, "Art, you're going to go there. I don't want you to say anything. I don't want you to ask any questions or talk anything. But the gypsy's going to come there, and he's going to pay you cash, $2,500 in $100 bills." And I says, "I still don't believe any of this." So we go to the lawyer's office, and it's like a shady lawyer, and I'm sitting
You're going to have to narrow it down a bit. Sorry.
Okay.
No, that's all right.
Yeah, the thief comes up, and they just parked their gypsy car in the middle, dropped the driveway and everything. They had a fancy pimped out car, and the mother had all her regalia on with jewelry and everything. And the guy comes up, he's just T-shirt and blue jeans, and they're talking business. And he counts out $2,500 bills, and I have to write a receipt. And the cop told me, don't jump them and beat them up or anything like that. And they're talking business that, what do you call it, that they got a warrant out for his arrest that he robbed this other woman. And the gypsy saying, no, that's me. That's cousin. What's his name's location? That's his area. It's not me. He says, no, she identified you. They're looking for you. He says, I got to go talk to her. He says, no, don't go by her house. They got a warrant for arrest. She's got a concealed carry. She can shoot you. Don't go there. He says, well, I didn't do it. That was cousin who did it, not me. I want to explain to her. He says, no, forget about it. So they're talking business. And then I got the money. I don't say anything. And we leave, and the cops drive me home. And I'm saying, well, I got cash on me. What's going to happen with this, you know? And so I say to the cops, I says, listen, should I, thank you so much for helping me. Can I give you a donation or something or this and that? And Eddie Mack says to me, says, Art, the only thing I want you to do is I want you to give your mother a dozen roses, from me, and that'll be it. That's the only thing I want. And, I got all the money, and they dropped me off, and I got my mother the roses. And it's just honesty and altruism that Eddie Mack and Fitzgerald did this for us, and got this money back. So I'd love to talk to him again if I could reach him again, like your first caller.
Yeah. Those guys were they were very famous as that was their expertise, working with the Romani people. They knew everything about them. They had personal relationships. It's like they would talk to the king of the gypsies, right? They would go right to him and say, listen, this is a problem. These are very old people on a limited, they had a personal relationship, a respect of this guy, and they had stuff that they can use to leverage him. All right. And it's a give and take at a certain point. That's what made them very good detectives, because they knew to give and take. Right? They knew these people. They had order of battle on them. They knew everyone. And like you said, that's a different guy's territory. Well, this guy, he's more concerned with telling this lady it wasn't him than he is with telling his cousin that he's poaching in his territory. So so there is those Fitzgerald and Mack, very famous on the police department. Very well known, and I'll tell you what, one thing about the Romani is that these two guys were their ultimate nightmare. They would never do anything against them because they were terrified of them. Absolutely terrified. So, I mean, it scares me because every time I had a case, even slightly involving the Romani people, a giant cloud came over my head. A giant cloud was just over my head, and spooky, and everything, until I closed that case. Once I closed that case, everything became normal again. So, the history of them is that this is their reason for being allowed to steal. It's their culture, all right? And they've talked it into them, and now they're a Christian people. And when at the crucifixion, the legend is that there was a fourth nail that they were going to drive into Christ's forehead. And one of the Romani, the gypsies come from Egyptian, all right? So they're Egyptians, but they went into Eastern Europe, Romania, and Romania is from the Romans and everything. So there's a whole mix up there. But the Egyptians, all right. So because they stole this nail, all right, and the nail wasn't driven into Christ's forehead, that God gave them. This is carte blanche to steal, all right, not to kill, not to murder, none of that stuff, but to steal. So they had. That wasn't one of the commandments that they had to follow anymore. So they used that as to justify their behavior. But that has been around for almost 2,000 years, that behavior, and it's just become cultural, and it's become organized. right?
Yes.
And some things they tell you, as a police officer, go, wait a second, this is gypsy business. Why are the police involved? I goes, because your other gypsies got us involved. You think I want to be involved in this? Missing person, someone stole someone's dowry or something like that. And when they're not, when they weren't getting what they thought they deserved from their own people, that's when they came out of the woodwork and talked to the police and made it into a police case.
And that's,
yeah.
I wish, is anybody in contact with Officer Eddie Mack?
Ed died a few years ago.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear, but I got to commend him. Great guy.
Yeah, he was. Does he still have?
He was a wonderful guy, and he was also a professor at Lewis, and I taught a lot of classes for him, and I worked a lot of cases with him, and Eddie was a wonderful guy.
Didn't Fitzgerald have like he had a television show for a while on how not to get ripped off, right?
Yeah, robbed. Yeah. Not getting scammed.
The big mustache.
Yeah.
And those guys they're legends on the job. Not the guys going out and shooting and everything else, not these Law and Order, shooting and desperados and everything. But when it came to crime, like organized crime like that, these guys were legends.
Yeah, they were great guys and totally honest. And I was so grateful to know we have such good police enforcement and get some justice and stuff like that with good people watching over us.
I'm wondering if they'd be able to do the same level of work and competency under the current regimes. All right.
They were truly old-time policemen, and they knew their stuff, and you knew enough about them to let them do what they had to do, and sadly that's missing in today's day.
Yeah, now all they'd have to, if they were on some guy's trail for let's say they had a pattern of garage burglaries, right? And they knew the guy that was doing these garage burglaries, and they were on his trail, and the guy heard that someone was looking for him, and he calls his alderman and complains, "Oh, my police are harassing me." Alderman calls the area commander, and the area commander comes and says, "Listen, lay off of this guy." Because the area commander doesn't want to hear from the alderman. You're doing your job.
Right.
But someone calls and complains on you because you're doing your job. And then they tell you find some other means, but you're doing your job. So, do we have that level now? I don't think so. I think it's throw the paper at them because no one's going out there. No one's extending because, and it's the same thing. You're wearing a mask because I'm an ICE agent, and I have to arrest all these no-good-nicks, right, that are such good, hardworking citizens that they're going to fire a gun at me, right? And I'm not wearing a mask, and I'm sitting at home, but I'm sitting at home comfortably because I got 4 U.S. Marshals in front of my house protecting me. No, that's not going to happen, right? So what's the only thing that can protect me? Anonymity. The same anonymity that the doxers and the swatters use, but not the same. I'm just wearing a mask. All right? I'm not intentionally going out there and taking these people and publicize them all over the internet. I'm just going out and doing the job, what I was told to enforce the laws, the best of my ability. I was sworn in to do that. I'm taking the man's coin to do that, and I'm doing it with integrity. I'm not going overboard, off the way. I'm not going over the rails and using illegal means to get the job done, which would be a lot easier. But they're trying to threaten me down from doing the job because they have no legitimacy. There's no legitimate reason for them to be out there protesting. There's no legitimate reason for them to be blockading me. This story came out, like I said, on the news, and we talked about this, Paul, in one of our previous shows. We talked about the new slavery on the streets. All right, so they go to a pot farm in in California where it's legal. It's not nationally legal, but it's legal in California. All right. So the pot farm is there. All right. And they go and they got a lot of illegal workers working there. All right. And they go in there and they find like 10 kids, right? All unaccompanied minors, illegal aliens. No one knows who they belong to. I guarantee you there's 10 guys there that had them and brought them to work with them and were collecting wages for those kids. Those were their slaves. But when ICE came in and rounded them all up, they go, oh, those kids aren't mine. Now they're like young kids, and they're putting them separate from these adults, and they're saying, oh, they're unaccompanied. But someone brought them there and was trafficking them. Not only that, that pot farm known or should have known that those children weren't legal workers. Someone should have been out there watching it. So what the government should do, they should absolutely seize that entire farm. Seize all the crops, burn them because they're against the law, and everyone that's invested in that can lose all their money.
That's how it should be.
And are we going to see that? Because that would be legit. That would be legit. And all these people with the crocodile tears should be screaming, we want the slave owners locked up. We want the slave owners locked up. And who are those 10 kids? Someone call me and tell me I'm wrong that those 10 kids weren't slaves. Because I want to see where their 401ks are and where their W-2s are and how much Social Security they paid into. Those children were slaves.
Mm-hmm. And what work permit did they get?
Yeah. We got another call in. Maybe someone's going to tell me they weren't slaves.
They dropped.
Oh, they dropped. All right. We talked about that, right? So what I want to see is this is a legit doxing here, right? This is the corporation that owned that pot farm. Here are the people that are the officers of that corporation, all right? And here are the indictments against those officers because they knew or should have known. There's no excuse. There's no side. I didn't know. Well, then you're incompetent. You shouldn't have been the CEO. You shouldn't have been an officer of this, right? You knew or should have known. You have to have liability. And the federal government, not for pot, for human trafficking.
Yeah.
Charge them all with human trafficking. What were they going to put P. Diddy in prison for?
Trafficking.
Human trafficking, right?
Yeah.
But what did he get? Transportation.
Yeah.
Lesser charge. But human trafficking, go after these guys. At the least, make them spend a bunch of that pot money, right, to defend themselves. Make some lawyers richer. And then the lawyers will pay income taxes on what they made off these guys.
Right.
Federal income taxes, legitify the money. All right. So next week we'll find a topic. You know what? We don't have to find the topic because the topics find. They find us.
Yeah. Have a great week.
Thanks for everyone who called in.
All our callers.
Thanks for everyone called in. I hope I was polite. All right. Thank you.
You were. Have a great week.